always said in Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am
Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party.
A revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am.
The idea that cinema at its best aestheticizes vital aspects of the human experience is one that I take very, very seriously. It's the axiom at the core of my outlook on cinema, and it guides my taste. The issue, though, is that axiom could not, for the longest time, extend beyond the reality of my own lived experience. As a black boy who was exposed to revolutionary ideas pretty early on in life, the issue of dehumanization was one that was never fully out of my mind. It's a definitive characteristic of the African American experience, past and present. So being aware of the systemic and, at times, unconscious insistence on and reaffirmation of my own lack of humanity in the eyes of the society producing the art form that I love made the phrase black cinema an oxymoronic one for me growing up. Paulo Freire's idea of dehumanization basically says that the oppressor's attempt to dehumanize the oppressed is, in and of itself, a recognition of the oppressed subject's humanity, which in practice is true in most cases. But when the oppression becomes so deeply ingrained in the cultural and structural identity of the society at large, no such reaffirmation can take place. You know, because systems and social/structural norms are not conscious beings. Now, given my awareness of how the society, and by extension the art form born out of said society, viewed blackness, it made it extremely difficult for me to feel seen and represented in what is, again, an art form that I absolutely love. It must be said, though, that this axiomatic aporia shaping my distorted view of black cinema was short-lived. Once I gained access to cinema outside of the culture industry that monopolized movies in my mind, everything changed. But before gaining access to independent black cinema from singular artists like Oscar Micheaux all the way up through Spike Lee, Julie Dash, John Singleton, etc., blackness as depicted in mainstream film came with heavy doses of white saviorism and a clear departure from what I knew to be the reality of the black experience. But over the years, the production, distribution, and visibility of cinema has become more and more democratized and accessible. And as a result of this, genuine black cinema has spilled over into the mainstream. Films like 12 Years a Slave perfectly aestheticizing points of Afro-pessimism, If Beale Street Could Talk celebrating black love as a revolutionary act, and Sorry to Bother You genuinely conveying an anti-capitalist message in a scathing and satirical way that never loses sight of the issue of race or gender were nearly inconceivable just a few years ago on a mainstream stage. But here they were, and you did not have to look hard to find them. Judas and the Black Messiah is the latest and perhaps greatest installment in this amazing new wave.
These ain't no terrorists. You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Judas and the Black Messiah tells the story of the chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton, and the shamed FBI informant, William O'Neal. Written by Shaka King and Will Burson, the screenplay perfectly illustrates the dynamic between the two without ever falling into the trap of two-dimensional villainization. The villain here is not just William, it's white supremacy. More specifically, the protectors of white supremacy's ability to feed on William's apolitical ambitions and cowardice.
My name is Shaka King. I'm the co-writer, director, and one of the producers on Judas and the Black Messiah. This scene is one of the most important scenes in the movie because it highlights a key factor that we're trying to, get across to audiences, which is, in a lot of ways, this scene is about the danger of being apolitical. We really wanted to sort of hit home the old phrase, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
William isn't framed as the irredeemable devil that he would have been written as in the lesser film. He is instead used as a cautionary tale, and to that end, he serves as the narrative justification for the anti-capitalist thematic conclusion that the film eventually comes to, further complemented by the final shot in the dramatized section of the film. Hampton is written as he was, revolutionary, heroic, and selfless. It never ventures into the realm of unrealistic virtue because he's written as a fully fleshed out human being, and flaws and imperfections are inherent in such a depiction. Hampton's flaws are tied to his strengths, which is a characteristic of strong writing. For example, he loves the people enough to sacrifice 100% of his being for the movement, whether it means giving up his freedom or his life. And while on a macro level it's an admirable trait, on the micro relationship level it has the potential to hurt those closest to him. Everything about the way the characters are written, whether main or supportive, is incredible. The authenticity in the ways they speak and behave starts on the page, and given the period, location, and subject, it's refreshing to see it done so well. The story is written in a way that never loses sight of how little has changed since the period depicted and how evergreen this struggle actually is, but it never gives into the obvious anachronisms that would have, again, undoubtedly shown up in a lesser film. We'd never get that terrible scene in which J. Edgar Hoover pounds his desk and emphatically states, "Black lives don't matter," and that's definitely a bullet dodged. Directorially, Shaka King has delivered something special. Employing the cinematographic talents of Sean Bobbitt, the visuals here are simply sublime. There are certain moments of silhouette lighting, dynamic framing, and camera movement that I'm still able to picture perfectly in my mind long after seeing the film. Black skin is treated like a canvas for the light in this high-contrast, rich picture produced by the ARRI Alexa. And also worth mentioning is how the sparingly used close-ups beautifully fill the 2:3:9 to 1 aspect ratio. The editing rounds out the visual language in a fantastic way. The moment-to-moment reminds me of the way the Coens handle shot-reverse shot, only cutting when it's absolutely necessary, leaving room for nonverbal acting, ultimately cementing the verisimilitude of each scene, instead of cutting every single time someone finishes a word of dialogue in the mechanical, industrial sense. And the structural editing is economical and precise, making the film feel a lot shorter than its already lean 2-hour and 6-minute long runtime. As far as the acting, which to me still falls under the category of directing to a certain degree, it's all phenomenal. Everyone is just perfect, but Daniel Kaluuya is an absolute force. From capturing the dialect of late 60s Chicago to the idiosyncratic phonetic patterns of Fred Hampton, what Kaluuya achieves is monumental. And Lakeith Stanfield meets him at his greatness, providing a wide range of emotions, often in one scene without missing a single beat. Seriously, these two took my breath away. Overall, Judas and the Black Messiah feels like something I dreamt up as a young black cinephile who felt unrepresented in cinema. It paints a portrait of a black revolutionary freedom fighter whose philosophical and ideological fixations are baked into the DNA of the film itself. But to be clear, it's not a film that's great just because of its messaging, which is something that I'm sure it'll be accused of by someone. It passes the test of aesthetic formalism. Judas and the Black Messiah is the most American film you can watch right now, so watch it. Thanks for watching. I'm Lee, and I'm a fake critic.
Do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pig. The people are going to have to stand up against the pig. That's what the pastors are doing. That's what the